Right, I've just bought the new Saitek Cyborg keyboard as a replacement from my old Logitech G15. Main reason for changing it is because my W and S keys have decided to play up and they just don't work anymore. So I got them going for a bit, but now they don't work. Firstly, so I'm quite impressed with it. It seems like a pretty sturdy keyboard. It's you know, not much different in weight and size from the Logitech. It's maybe a little bit smaller because I've actually got the wrist pads on here, and the Logitech did come with wrist pads as well. But if you also put that on, it pretty much takes up the whole desk. First things looking at it, obviously as you can see it's a lot brighter. The Logitech is plugged in as well, and you can see that's lit up, but it's nowhere near the same sort of brightness as the Cyborg. First looks at it as well, one of the first things I like is, like the old Logitech, you had the USB ports on the back on both sides, here and here. The main things I didn't like about that is it's only USB 1, so you can't actually use most stuff with it. It's not powered enough, so you can't plug in your external hard drives. A lot of USB sticks didn't work either. So this one is USB 2 on this one, which is actually what I've got the G15 plugged into at the moment. Makes a big difference with, obviously, if you've got digital cameras, anything like that, and you don't have front USB ports on your PC, or you don't want to have to keep on bending down and plug it in there, you can plug it in there, which does make a little bit of a difference. So a lot of other people haven't really covered many things on this piece, apart from all the different colours that light up. You can light up the keyboard in all different colours. You can have this part, the macro keys, the arrow keys, the main keyboard, the WASD keys, and no, they're the only ones, and you can have those all different colours, and you can go through green, red, orange and yellow. I think they're pretty much the only ones there, and there's 4 different brightness settings. I'm not going to go into too much depth with that, because as you see from other videos on YouTube, there's actually hundreds of people mucking around with playing with that and just saying how it's the most amazing keyboard in the world just because it lights up. I like to look at a few other things as well. Obviously I did use the macro keys on the G15. There's not as many as there is. I mean, I've got version 1 of the G15, and that's got a lot more macro keys on it, because you've got 3 memory banks and you've got 18 keys, so that's 3 lots of 18. Obviously the Cyborg's only got 12, but I think that's fairly similar to version 2 of the Logitech G15. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's I know it's less anyway. Couple of other things I noticed as well is a few people have said on the Cyborg reviews that if you switch on Cyborg mode, which has obviously got all the lit up colours, which disables the Windows key, that they get frustrated that because they want to keep all the colours on and they can't use the Windows key, because if you turn off Cyborg mode, you see everything goes back to the same colour and macro keys aren't lit up, etc. You can actually get this to work, and I have been playing around with it. You can actually get the Windows key to work in Cyborg mode, but what you have to do is, rather than using the actual Windows key, which here as you see is not doing anything, you have to assign one of the macro keys, which I've assigned here as C1. So if I push C1, you'll see that it brings up the start menu as it would do normally. So if that is something that's winding you up, you can actually get over it by using the software that comes with the Cyborg. Going on to the macro side of things as well, comparing it to the Logitech, the software doesn't look as pretty on the screen. If I should bring up the Logitech one, it looks something like that, and then you go into here and you set up your macros in here. Now the Cyborg uses a more basic looking version, but it does all pretty much the same thing. The editor looks like that. Obviously you see no fancy colours. For example, if you wanted to set the macro key 1 as your as a Windows key, you'd have to you have to click in the box, and as you see, you can insert there. Insert left Windows key, and that will give you your Windows button as your macro. One of the other things I quite like about this as well is you can actually I see most of the controls on this little arrow here, rather than clicking on the box. If you click off and click on this little arrow, most of your controls on there. If you come down to here and advanced command, you can actually record the mouse here as well, which is quite good. So if you're in here, you can actually, as you can see, set all your different times. If I wanted to click quickly, you can get the macro keys to do that, which I couldn't find a command for that on the Logitech G15, although it may do it. I didn't play around with that as much. It came to me quite quickly on this one that you can assign it on your mouse. Although I do have macros on my mouse as well, because I'm using a Razer mouse as well, and I can set macros on that as well. But it is quite good if you did want to set it on the keyboard. Now, the other thing people have said as well is while they're playing that they can't push the macro keys. Now, at a push you could just about reach it, but to be honest it's not much different from the G15 either, which is down here, and you see the macro keys are over here, and you can just about reach a couple of them, but you still have to sort of take your fingers off. As you see, as you reach over, you find your fingers sliding away from the W key, so it's not a massive difference. Obviously the main difference, obviously people would say with this one, is the Logitech G15 does have the LCD screen. Now I do use this section on it, which was the CPU and RAM settings. Other than that, didn't really use it much, because if it was compatible with a game, it didn't tell you a hell of a lot, other than pretty much what was already on the screen. For example, the how much ammo you got left, or if you're playing like Command and Conquer, it was quite good for a few things like that. It would tell you some of the troops you had, but you could do it by looking on the screen. But it's one of those things that you think, oh well, it's, you know, I'll go for the Logitech because it's got the screen, but in all honesty, I didn't really use it that much, which is why I decided to try something a bit different. I was looking at maybe the uprated version 2 of the G15 or even the G19. I was prepared to possibly pay a little bit more, but I said, well, I heard the G19 is just a colour screen version of this pretty much. So I decided to go for something a bit different and see what it is. The keys seem pretty sturdy. They sort of clicking away, obviously compared to the G15. There's not a lot in it. It does feel, I think it's a bit heavier when you push on the keys, but I think that's more a case of getting used to. So there's, that is a general overlook on it. If anyone's got any questions or they want me to try and run through something with them, then just give us a shout. But that was my main thing on it. If anyone's actually wants to ask the question of whether or not I think the G15 or the Cyborg is better, I think it comes down to preference, because obviously as you can see where this one's quite lit up, that's not to everyone's taste. Some people would think that was an absolute nightmare, but I quite like it, so that's why I'm going to stick with it. And obviously I tend to use my computer when it's quite dark as well, so it's it does make things a bit easier, because I do find myself having to look at the G15 sometimes if you're trying to find like keys in the dark, for example. But the I'm going to stick with this one for the time being and see how I get along with it. I might do a bit of an updated post and see if to see how I've got it on. But so far with the gaming, I think that they're pretty much on par with each other. If you particularly want the screen, go for the G15, but as I said before, it's pretty much a waste of time, to be honest. For me, as I said, I think the Cyborg might be the advantage to me. The macros are very similar, and I do like the design. Obviously everything's touch panels on the front here as well, as opposed to the the analog volume on the G15. You've got the push button ones on the Cyborg, but it's obviously entirely preference really. Some people prefer to have the analog knob, but yeah, okay, so post your comments and let us know what you think.